Okay, so Eric, what do you think made you qualify for being, such a blues player, as a guitar player, as a singer, and all that, being born, in England, being born white and with a totally different reality to the one of those guys from Mississippi?
Yeah, well, what I considered to be my qualification as a young player was the fact that I came from working class, slightly disturbed background. That is to say, my upbringing was very unusual. I was illegitimate but raised by my grandparents and felt very abandoned and slightly deprived as a kid, and I used that in a sense to feed my feeling of isolation and loneliness, and I thought, well, this gave me some kind of kinship with black people in America, being that they were oppressed and treated as second-rate citizens, etc., etc. But what I realized later on was really that was a very poor kind of parallel, because black people in America, although they have been kept down and treated very badly all of their lives, they still had, amongst the families, etc., etc., a unity. And to be a black man in America is a very united feeling, not a feeling of fragmentation. It can be a lonely experience, but from what I've seen, it seems to be a very strong one too. I mean, black people are very strong in their feeling of belonging to one another, of being part of a tradition and a race which goes back into Africa and everything. So really, my feeling of sympathy and empathy with them was slightly misplaced, and so that was the only way, in reality, that I could really identify with them. But as I grew more aware of what the differences were, I realized that I had to just accept that I was using that identification as a way of strengthening my music. But all of that aside, I still feel that there is something akin in the I mean, because why else would I have responded to the blues and R&B when I was so young and other music didn't reach me that way? There must have been some shared experience there, even if it was purely an emotional one and not political,
Obviously, I mean, it's still, it has to do with oppression, basically.
I think, yeah, on an individual basis, I think that's what it comes down to, because everyone in the end is on their own, and their only way of relating to the universe is a unique soul experience, and it can't be. You can only, on a certain level, share it with other people, and there becomes a sense of communication. But when you have to really identify yourself on this world, you do it from a purely unique individual point of view.
As this goes on the BBC, this might be maybe the perfect place for you to comment maybe one last time on how could you, I mean, being somebody playing the blues, being and being recognized and so friendly with people like Muddy Waters and wanting to be the English Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
How could you be accused in the late 70s of making racist comments?
Oh, I think it was very, very easy to confuse that, because there was a time during the 70s when I was very upset about the amount of money being spent in England by the Arabs who would come and buy Park Lane, buy the Dorchester, buy Harrods, and it just seemed to me that the country was being bought up. Now it's the Japanese, and it was a great feeling of loss of tradition, and I was very annoyed by the fact that London, for instance, was no longer London. It was it could have been anywhere in the world, and I think it was, I think I made some fairly racial comments, but they weren't directed at any one particular minority. It was just a kind of a feeling of loss of identity, being English and losing my Englishness. I mean, the fact that it was made when I was drunk probably exaggerated the whole thing,
But still, that had nothing to do, I mean, with black people or whatever.
No, it was a sense of being, the country being ransacked, and I thought, well, this has got to stop, or else there'll be no England left. But I've since lost that kind of feeling of national pride. I mean, it's almost too late for England now. I'm hoping for a united Europe, but we'll never know.
You are really?
Hmm?
I mean, do you really are? I mean, because it's very uncommon, let's say, to find English people I mean, I'm not saying British because the
Yeah.
Scots and all that obviously
Yeah.
seem to feel very much more Europe, but you know, the English don't seem to you know, to be very keen on the idea.
Well, I think the English have been, you know, it's a tiny island that has always been very, very jealous of its coast. You know, it doesn't want to let anybody in and it doesn't want to let anybody out, really. I mean, but I think if we don't become part of a larger mass or a larger community, then really the country will just go to the dogs, and it already is. You know, and there are very many aspects of the society that I find slightly, that I'm slightly ashamed of. But I still see that there's a possibility. I see myself as more of an international person. I go around the world a lot. And when I come back to England, I see this little island struggling to keep its identity when there's no real need for it. You know, what's the point?
Okay, so let's try and maybe condense all of this. I mean, the fact that you know, you've traveled a lot, you play a lot of different music, you play styles that you weren't necessarily born and bred with. Is that all the things you know, tried and put into the concept of the Journeyman?
Yeah, and I think you know, it's a feeling of being in touch with different places, musical places, geographical places. You know, I love the fact that I can go around the world and play with anybody. You know, and my music isn't confined to one style. Although I'm a blues player, I can sit and jam with just about anybody and get by. And I think that is what gives me this perspective on England as it is. You know.
So if you had to, you know, name a place or an idea,
Yeah.
that can be, which would be where you belong, what would it be?
Just this side of the ozone, anywhere.
Okay, great. Can we just now ask you if you want to make, you know, just a small, you know, tag kind of saying, hi, this is Eric CLAPTON.
Yep.
I'm in Paris for Rapido.
Yep. Whenever you're ready.
Oui. Ouais, non, ça c'est bien, ça c'est bien. Okay.
Hi, this is Eric CLAPTON. I'm in Paris talking to Rapido.
Okay, that's fine.
Great.